What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reel Down. With you as always, I'm your host, Jimmy Skinner. Mr. G over there. How you doing,
What's
brother?
going on? Doing well. Just hanging in there.
Oh yeah, making another day. Working for
Yeah.
the man.
Another day, another dollar.
You're making
They
more than a
say.
dollar. You make into big bucks. But he spends so much of it on fishing, so he
It
like
evens itself out.
$3 comes home with him.
Yeah.
What's been up, dude? You get out last weekend?
I did. Yeah. No, went mess around on one of these little ponds out here for a minute and caught a couple good ones. Overall, it was kind of just a bunch of smaller fish, but caught one
Word.
that was like a 19-incher that was probably close to 4 or 5 pounds. It was thick.
Swollen.
But other than that, took the wife to that Taylor Swift concert that was in the rain on
Oh, you
Sunday.
did that? I didn't know you were a
I didn't go
Swiftie.
to it.
You just like
I just
you just
dropped.
kicked her out of the car? I don't believe you.
I took her with her and her friends went to it and sat in the rain for 8 hours or whatever it was.
That sucks.
Yeah, me and the husbands all played video games and stuff while we waited on the. We're like,
Oh
yeah, we're
man.
inside dry and not miserable. We're having a good time.
Ain't nothing Taylor Swift done that y'all couldn't have heard on the radio, ladies. Whatever. Old Garrett's a Swifty. I never knew. Well, I didn't get out. I went to the shop at Music City Outdoors in Nashville, Tennessee. Shameless plug. And had to give him back the Torpedo after I've had it for a while. It's okay. I cried a little.
How'd that breakup go? Did you?
Honestly, like, it's not that big a deal because, like, I was telling everybody, like, it's a cool setup. I really like Torpedo. It's super smooth. The torque's nice. But on the PA-14, full speed, you can tell it, like, the boat, it's at the top of its, like, limit. So it's not an efficient speed. Like, when that boat's at 5.5 miles an hour, it is, like, gliding across the water. Like,
Yeah.
not a lot of water resistance. And the Newport will get it to the 5.25, range pretty easily. So pretty simple little swap. Still got the innovative Sportsman mount and foot steering, but I swapped over back to the NK 180, and it's so much lighter. It's so nice, and we did some really
Yeah.
cool wiring for it. I'll have to post some pictures of it, but we took the newer Hobies have screw in rod inserts for their recessed rod holders,
Yeah.
and we took both of those out, and he 3D printed a plate for the left side that's actually a track for holding my camera boom. And then the right side is actually a female insert that holds the Marenco 70 amp plug.
Dude, that's awesome.
So, yeah. And then we ran all the wiring up to the front, reshaped. Yes, reshaped the front hatch insert bin. And I've got
The
two.
blowtorch and
Yeah. Yes. And a loading dock. It was great.
yeah.
The first one, this one looks terrible, but it's because it took us so many times to figure out how to heat it up. Because
Yeah.
I don't know what plastic that is, but I've got a 1200-degree heat gun that would not heat it up hot enough to actually like stay hot and shape. It would just bubble. But the blowtorch, perfect. So we're gonna order another one. I'm gonna do it again, and it'll be absolutely beautiful.
Very
But I've
nice.
got two amped outdoors 12-volt 60s wired in series that for 2460 that are actually up front hidden, so I can still have all my storage and have all my wiring and have my weight distribution, and I'm gonna have some range because with the 50 I got 18 miles without killing it. So I would assume I could get 25 miles out of that charge, so maybe 2 tournament days now.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. And the weight,
You
honestly,
could
with
do a
those two,
lap around the lake if you wanted to.
literally, well, depending. But it between the two batteries and that motor, I think it weighs the same or less than the 1103 because the 1103 is a beef, like big old
Looks like
beefcake
a
of a
dang
motor.
outboard on your
Yeah,
on
she's
the back of
she's
your
tanky, but yeah, I'm excited to try it. I mean, I've done Newport on the Hobie, so I know what that's like. I just haven't had the Newport with the foot steering. And one thing I can say about the 1103 is the higher horsepower motor. It at full speeds because it's so much torque. It is a bitch to steer it with your feet. Like that steering system is efficient, and it's just it fights you because there's so much torque. I think
Yeah,
it's gonna just be buttery with the Newport. So
it will. It
I'm
probably will.
excited. I got all that set up. I think we decided against doing all the lighting on this one, since it's my shop boat for the year. We're kind of like already halfway through the year.
Yeah, you don't want to drill a ton of holes and stuff in it.
Well, not only that, but I don't want to just rig it and have it rigged for because I'm going to swap it in October, get a PA14 360, and then I'm going to go stupid on that one. Like we're going to go. If you've never heard of Mistachrome, look up that color. Google Mistachrome, and I've got a guy working on getting me a wrap for it in Mistachrome, and it's a famous paint job from Ford that
Yeah.
came on select cars very rarely, and it's like a $20,000 paint job.
That's no
But it's like
biggie.
no, but the wrap hopefully shouldn't be that terrible, and we're gonna do that. And we're talking. He's trying to talk me into wrapping my truck so that the truck and the boat match when the boat's in the bed of the truck.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know if we're gonna go that deep because then it's gonna be
Yeah.
like, oh, now I want wheels and tires. Oh, now I want a lift kit. Oh, now I need turbos. Like rabbit hole.
Yeah. Don't
But
go down that hole.
yeah, no, that's what I did all weekend. Bunch of rigging, some cool new stuff. Try to get some pictures posted up on the Paddle and Fin page so that everybody can see it because it is some of it's kind of innovative. Um, Nothing I ain't afraid to share. If you see it and do it, go cool. Just say
There
you
you
saw it
go.
on my stuff. But uh, yeah. So I've been like running around with my head cut off. So give me a breakdown of what you got for us this week. What you got set up? What we covered?
So this week we got the first and second place winners from the elite kayak fishing event on Cayuga Lake in New York. I don't know if I said that right, but
Cayuga.
Cayuga. I don't know what their pronunciation. This is one I've heard of and heard a lot about the last couple years, especially watching like some of the Elite Series events and
MLF.
MLF going up
Yeah.
there. And
Dustin Connell smacked on them last year at
yeah,
Cayuga. And then
and
I
and
want to
then
say
if
we
you
covered
watch,
this event, not the EKF, but I know we covered a Cayuga event kayak because I'm pretty sure Bailey Eichbrett won that one.
yeah, I can't remember
I
what
think
series it was that was up there.
it would have been NYKBF,
Yeah,
which is also an event that was going on with this one.
yeah, yeah,
So, and these guys got second and third in that event as well. But for anybody that doesn't know about Cayuga, we're going to let these guys talk it about. We're about to bring them in, but it's like smallmouth heaven. So,
and largemouth apparently.
oh yeah, those two.
Yeah,
But like as a southern man, we would go to Cayuga for the brownfish. So, oh boy, it just lit the sky. It's lightning and storming here. So if I cut out everybody, I'm very sorry. But it just lit up like a daylight outside. So must be getting pretty close over here.
yeah, I
But
think it's
without
coming
any,
towards.
oh, I hope it gets you too, man. It's a big old heavy fat rain, as Forrest Gump once said. But
Yeah,
without any further ado, we're gonna go ahead and bring them in. First up, we got Mr. Brandon Brylinsky and Mr. Nick Audi. How y'all doing, fellas?
Doing
Good. How
well.
about you? Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. Thanks for being able to fit us into your busy schedules after the kicking butt and tournaments all weekend. Because I know, like, last thing I want to do is talk about fishing. Not
That's
true. Not
yeah,
true.
that's all I can think about right now.
That's right. Well, I swear we've had Nick. Have we had you on before?
I don't believe so. No.
Maybe I've just seen your name a bunch.
Yeah.
But well, both of y'all. Nick, you can go first. Tell the folks listening a little bit about yourself. Give us a little introduction. How you got into kayak fishing? Just a little bit.
Yeah. So, my name is Nick Audi. I'm from Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania specifically. And I've been in a kayak since 2017. Kayak fishing. I started fishing kayak tournaments in 2020. I actually ran into one of my buddies, Ryan Madalevich. We traveled to tournaments together at one of our local lakes here, and he introduced me to kayak tournaments. And ever since then, I've just been completely eaten up with it. I think it's the most fun thing you could do. Just travel in the country, going fishing kayak tournaments, and every once in a while you win a little bit of money. So
I wouldn't know anything about that.
but it's a lot of fun. You get to, I mean, besides just traveling the country, getting to see all these amazing fisheries, like going up to New York, or even this year I was down at the Bass Championship on Chickamauga, somewhere I never would have been had it not been for kayak fishing. So that's basically how I got into it, and I do enjoy northern fishing a lot for mostly smallmouth. Smallmouth fishing's my favorite, but when presented an opportunity like Cayuga this weekend to go crack some largemouth, I'm not opposed to that either.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
especially the quality that you guys are getting into.
Yeah.
That's can't pass that up. I mean, that's
well, and is it something there? So, before we let Brandon introduce himself, here's a quick question: with it being known from the outside looking in because of the elites and MLF and the big tournament scenes that come that way, do a lot of people really just come focus on the smallmouth, and it kind of makes the largemouth fishing like easier? Not quotes on that word, or
I would say
No, those events, they mostly focus on largemouth.
really
Like,
okay.
Yeah, the elites and MLF, there's only like a handful of guys that go after the smallies. Cayuga in particular is tricky with the smallies. They're really pelagic, and so it's tough to pattern them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Navionics here. Is it really 400 foot deep in the middle of it?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And it's like so it's weird because you could actually see the drop offs. Like if you're sitting on shorts,
Yeah.
the water's so clear down there where you could see where it's like it'll go from like, the bank to like 10 foot to 20 foot, and then like it just straight drops off to like 200 feet.
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be freaky.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
It's freaky.
Like
I'm
standing
looking
in
at
your kayak and you're basically
Yep.
looking off a cliff.
Yep.
Blech.
That's what it's like.
Yep.
That'd be the first time I'd ever been scared of heights in the water.
Yeah. There's some spots when I was pre-fishing that you could see that like I'll be 10 yards from the bank and you're in 100 feet of water, like right up against the bank.
See,
Yeah,
I don't even
I
know
was
how
just
to
looking
fish
at
stuff
this
like
point
that.
here, and it's like maybe 50 yards from the bank, you're in 200 foot of water.
Yep.
Well, Brandon, since we started getting interested in the other stuff, go ahead and tell us about yourself, how you got into kayak fishing.
Yeah.
Tell me what kind of dog that is that's snoring back there.
It's a French bulldog. I kicked him out of the room.
I say it's got to be a Frenchie or or American bulldog.
Yep, Frenchie. So I'm Brandon Brylinsky. I live in Ithaca, New York. So very thankful to be right at the base of Cayuga Lake. I consider it my home lake.
Nice.
I've been here in the Finger Lakes region for about 7 years. I've been fishing since I could hold a pole, but I actually grew up in Oregon and did a lot of salmon, steelhead, sturgeon fishing out there.
Oh, nice.
So I did do some bass fishing a little bit and ponds and stuff, but it wasn't really until moving here to New York that I got really into the bass fishing, and I got into the kayak fishing. I think I did my first tournament in 2019 and have just been obsessed ever since. We've got a great community here with NYKBF, Justin Hausner, and all the TDs. They do a great job, and our club is just blowing up. So that was my entry point to the tournament fishing. And I've just, now I'm traveling the country and doing some of the Hobie events and elite kayak. So yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Well, NYKBF's always, we get to cover and kind of keep up with everything. NYKBF definitely is always there's always the clubs that stick out. You have the All-American Kayak
Queen
Series,
City.
Queen City, NYKBF, the 63 of them in Texas. Same thing in Tennessee. But yeah, NYKBF always does really good. And you hear there's a lot of anglers that come through that scene that we hear about on the Nationals Trail a lot. And so it was awesome to get to cover one of those events as well as one of the EKF. I don't think that we've done an EKF before. I think this is the first time. So it'll be pretty cool to get into, and that's what we're gonna do. So we kind of talked a little bit about the depth, the crazy depth and the different types of fish in there. But if anybody wants to expand on Cayuga a little bit, and Brandon, you may be, you live so close, it might be good for you to expand on it a little bit to give us a little lay of the land.
Yeah, happy to. So like I said, I live in Ithaca, but that's down on the south end of the lake, and it's quite a bit different here on the south end. I've spent the last handful of years trying to figure out the south end, and I get some decent fish down here, but it's nothing like the northern half of the lake. And like we talked about, it's one of these glacier finger lakes that are extremely deep. Seneca and Cayuga are the two largest finger lakes, and they both are like maxing out at like 500, 600 feet deep. It's
Jesus.
unreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do have the smallies like we talked about. There's some big ones here. The possible, I don't know if it's been verified, but possible state record smallie just came out of Cayuga. I think it was last year.
Yeah, it was like 10 pounds and 7 ounces or
No,
something in that range.
that was the one out of Erie. The one
That
out
was
of
the one out
Cayuga.
of Erie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cayuga was 8.85 or 8.6, I think.
Okay.
But still a freak.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Only
That's
8.
a monster.
Only 8.
Yeah. Which is really impressive that the state record smallmouth could come out of Cayuga when you've got the St. Lawrence River in Ontario right next
Yeah.
door, which
Yeah.
is
Right. That
crazy.
is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And that whole lake, it like I look at it on Navionics, like Garrett had touched on earlier, and it like you watch some of the video and film of it, how guys are fishing it, and then obviously you don't know right where they're sitting, but then when I see it on Navionics, I'm like, what the hell are they doing? Like all I see is 200 foot of water. Like, what are y'all doing? Like your drop shot's not getting down there, guy. Like, but it's pretty interesting. And when Garrett brought it up, I was glad we get to take a look at it with you guys. So whoever wants to start, let's talk a little bit about pre-fishing and preparation, getting ready for this event. Nick, we'll let you talk about it because it may have been a little more simple for Brandon with having home field advantage. So how did you prepare, Nick?
So yeah, I prepared, but I had 2 days of pre-fishing before the event, and I had actually gone up to the lake. The lake's only about 2.5 hours from my house, so I had gone
Not
up
too
to the
bad.
lake about three weeks previous to just get a feel for what was going on because I knew it was kind of going to be a pretty big event. So wanted to get a feel for what was going on the lake, and we had a big warming trend up here. It was like in the 90s in early April, and which is like crazy for around here. And
Okay, it hasn't hit 90 here in Alabama yet. That's nuts.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, we had like one day where it topped out in the 90s and it was in the high 80s for a couple of days.
That's insane.
So
I'm telling you, man, the climate has flipped this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I found a pretty good school of fish, pretty shallow. And I was catching them good. I had
Where'd
like
you find
100.
shallow water? I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, that's the other thing. The northern part of the lake turns back into like a traditional shallow water fishery where it's like 10 to 12 feet across
Yeah.
the whole northern part of the lake.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
I found
wild how it does that.
Yeah.
Like there's a good stretch where it's just like a big giant flat of like
Yep.
15 foot of water the whole
Yep.
way.
And the water dirties up too when you get up there. You get like it's almost like a chalky blue colored water up there, chalky green. So yeah, I found that school of fish shallow, and then when I came back to pre-fish the 2 days before the event, I went to check and see if that shallow bite was going on, and it wasn't. Because it had cooled back down. I couldn't find those fish shallow, so I basically just started graphing, and I found a couple offshore spots graphing on side scan that were like harder bottom areas, and my first cast in, I catch a 21 1/4, and it was 7 pounds 9 ounces, and I was like, okay, well this is something. So
it
I
sounds like it's got the potential. We talked about how it had the smallmouth record. It sounds like it's got the potential for a largemouth record too.
Oh, I think for sure. If you get a fish that's 22.5, 23 inches in there, which is not unheard of up north, rare but not unheard of, that it would go 10 pounds easy.
God.
with the size of the fish. So yeah, I basically got on a little offshore deal, just scanning around, marking some subtle bottom features. It was pretty hard to see. It wasn't like anything like blatantly obvious, just spots where they were staging. Maybe they pulled back out from the shallow bite and were sitting there waiting to push back up to spawn. But graphing, just a lot of graphing offshore.
What
Heck
kind
yeah.
of what kind of forage do fish typically relate to on these reservoirs? Like I've never really fished a glacier lake like that, except for maybe like some of the Great Lakes, but
So
that's not really the same.
Cayuga, there's a lot of perch.
Okay,
There are alewives, and that's what a lot of the smallies are going. They're chasing.
Hmm.
That's why
gotcha.
they move around quite a bit because they're chasing the schools of alewife. There are gobies now in Cayuga as
Hmm.
well, so that
Hmm.
I think is becoming more of a factor, and
And I
also probably why these fish are getting so big.
yeah, any
Cool.
lake that you see that have goby, I suggest go and fish there. The fishing is in
Like fast
all the
candy.
major all the major lakes you hear about like up north are all except for
Goby.
Champlain, minus Champlain, but everything besides Champlain, St. Clair, St.
Oneida.
Lawrence, Ontario, Oneida, Grand Traverse Bay, they're all goby driven.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever fished a Goby Lake.
Yeah. They you would think that they wouldn't bite that easily because there's so much forage available, but they bite and they get gigantic.
It's
Constantly eating them.
a buddy of mine. I remember made a comment. We so you got a lot like a bluegill and red-eared sunfish and warmouth and stuff down
Mhm.
here, and we've got some places that fish kind of the same way you're talking about, and how it's like, why would they bite my lure when they've got so much? But he always makes the comments, you can watch them waking, blowing bluegill out of the way to come eat your little 4-inch plastic worm. Like it never fails. Like,
Yep.
well,
Yeah, I think the only goby reservoir I fished like is Grand Traverse Bay, like you just mentioned.
Yeah. That place is ridiculous as well.
That's I've caught
Insane.
like one of my fattest largemouth I've ever caught, or smallmouth from
Smallmouth. Yeah, I was
there.
gonna
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That place is awesome.
it's a cool
so
place.
I
But
see. But before we let Brandon get into it, I see. Looking at Navionics. It's a lot of submerged vegetation. Does it still cater to a lot of other things? Lots of rock piles, submerged tree stumps, or up like obviously probably more on like the northern or the far southern end where the water shallows up. But do you have a lot of option like that, or is it finding the fickle key areas in the
Yeah,
grass?
there's not a ton out there. Like the grass is like just starting to come up now, and there's some left over from previous years, but like you can find some grass out there. I didn't find them relating to grass as much, at least during my pre-fishing. Um, and it was more so just subtle hard bottom areas. And there's really not that much rock out there. It's a lot of sand and muck bottom. So when you can find that better bottom composition, you tended to find the fish as well.
Cool. Well, what about you, Brandon? Tell us about your approach to the pre-fishing.
Yeah, so I live right by the lake and pass it practically every day. So I've had a number of opportunities to check it out over the last month.
get
And
your
kind of
pets out there that you gotta have go visit.
no, not really. So Bailey Egbrett, he's in NYKBF and he's definitely got some
Yeah,
pets out here. And I haven't quite figured that out yet, but maybe I'm getting there. We'll see.
yeah. Maybe
But
this is the start.
yeah, I hope so. But kind of like Nick, I found some stuff up shallow a couple of weeks ago, and the water was a little bit warmer, and I was catching fish. I found a really good school. I guess this was about 3 weeks ago. That was sitting in like 3-4 feet of water, and I had a really fun afternoon. I probably caught like 30 chunkers in like 2 hours. It was just like sometimes it was
So,
one after another. So that actually ended up being my starting spot in the tournament. We'll get to that in a minute. But I didn't have a ton of time to pre-fish immediately before the tournament. I got out Thursday afternoon and mostly just graphed. I fished a little bit and caught like one 18-incher, and that I marked that spot. And then found a few other small ones here or there, but not winning fish. But it was mostly like new grass that I was marking. So kind of unlike Nick, what I was actually looking for was good patches of hydrilla. And so that's what I was marking when I was graphing that. And I was looking at the watercolor. A lot of times on Cayuga, that makes a big difference. So there was like a particular coloration that I was looking for, and kind of just making note of that. And I got out Friday morning just for like maybe 2-3 hours before I had to go to work. And for that, I just came down here on the south end, and I thought that if I could get on some, those good smallies, that I might have a chance, and I'd have them mostly to myself. And I got one pretty quick, but it was an 18, and then I didn't get anything after that. So I decided to, scrap that plan and just go to the north. My plan with the tournament was to just continue moving until I found the fish, just because I didn't have a lot of time to pre-fish.
Awesome. I like
Makes
it.
sense.
Couple different ways of approach.
Yeah.
And it's so like from a kayak standpoint. So if you're looking at this lake on the map like we are, it's a north-south straight line for the most part. Not a lot of features, and for most kayak guys that you typically see a lot of kayak folks, it's like shallow water. That's what a lot of folks think about when they think kayak fishermen. So obviously it covers a decent amount of mileage, the more fishable water, just looking at it from a map. Do you typically have to think that you're going to be fishing around a lot of people, especially this time of year?
Yeah, this lake is like notorious for the northern part of the lake getting a lot of pressure. And that's why I did try during pre-fishing to find those smallmouth so hard, because given a choice, I'd rather chase smallies over 60 feet of water than largemouth in 6 feet of water, that's just my style of fishing.
Yeah.
But I did know that there was going to be a lot of pressure up north. There's a couple really popular spots that people were going to be racing to get to. And I did factor that into my pre-fishing, and that's why I wanted to spend so much time graphing, because I knew if I could find an offshore bite, like offshore, even in like 10 feet of water, just out in the middle of nothing, I'd have that to myself. And I thought that was very important for this event. So I covered like 20 miles during pre-fishing, just like gridding back and forth, looking for something. It wasn't like the standard areas that everyone was going to be fishing.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot, and especially this year, is like finding that spot within the spot. And it sounds like that's kind of what you had to do up there.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what separates a lot of people from being a great fisherman, angler, compared to most of the regular old weekend warriors like myself that get caught up, trying to do the same thing, or I'll even try and replicate in other areas, but I never. And this year has just been a big first for me, especially, as Gary just said, we've really talked about it and been thinking about it more, that you can't always have the mindset that I've got to get away from everybody. You just got to find something that everybody else isn't doing, whether that's a specific technique or they're running right over something that's just different.
Right.
You always hear the pro bass guys where they're talking about, like that one patch of grass that's by itself, that one stick up that's by itself, just that one thing different that's everyone else has overlooked. But
yeah. And that was a factor why I abandoned my first spot at the beginning of the tournament is, I looked around and there were 7-8 kayaks around me and they were all doing the same thing I was doing. And I was like, well,
not doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, I tend to get that mentality where like, yeah, but I'm going to do it better than y'all are doing it. Like, it never works. But
right.
Like, oh, I'm the best at doing this. I'll got this.
Oh, you're throwing a Cinco? I'm going to throw the baddest Cinco in the freaking world.
Yeah.
Never works.
Yep. No.
Well, let's just go ahead and get into it. Again, so it's a one-day tournament. So you don't have to worry about really laying off the fish, which is you get to go out there and
burning
just
them to the
smack
ground.
on them. That's right.
Yep.
So whoever wants to take it away, talk about it. Let's hear, as much as you want. Let's hear about like what the pattern you found was. You don't have to talk about the specifics of the area, but the baits. Well, let's just talk about all of it. But whoever wants to start.
Go ahead. So I basically went directly to that first spot that I found marked offshore that I caught a fish on. And there were like 5 or 6 key little hot zones in this one, maybe, 500-yard stretch. And it turned out that that's all I fished all day. I just cycled through little hard bottom spots all morning long. I pulled up, I caught a fish on my first cast. I caught a fish on like my third cast. Like I had a limit within 5 to 10 minutes out there. And it was a pretty good limit. It was like 87 inches within the first 5 to 10 minutes. And I just proceeded to just try to burn it to the ground as much as possible because I knew I wasn't saving anything.
Yeah.
And just slowly upgrade it throughout the day. And then yeah, I mean I made one big upgrade. I caught a 20.5. It kind of in between the two spots on something I didn't expect to catch the 20 on. So that was like kind of a bonus. And I think that's the kind of fish you need in these kind of tournaments where like every inch literally matters because the field I knew it was going to be so tightly stacked. I mean, like I said, I had 95 inches. I'm thinking, okay, I'm looking all right. And then I see Brandon post and he's got like whatever it was, 94 and 3/4 at that point. I'm like, man, I'm going to need to keep catching fish. And then he ended up passing me. And then I ended up making one more call to get to 99.25 at the end of the day.
Well, what was your go-to technique?
I was throwing a chatterbait, creeping it along the bottom, just creeping a chatterbait along the bottom. I think that could imitate a lot of things. Mostly either like probably that Goby presentation is what I would think on the harder bottom spots, just creeping it along the bottom. And I would sit on one spot and I'd make the same cast 15, 20, 30 times in a row, just from different angles, boat positioning in different angles to try to hit that little spot that I knew was a hot spot for fish every which way I could to get everything I could out of it. And then I'd rotate to the next spot and let that spot reset and come back an hour later and try to hit it again because these fish are kind of floating around out there and then they'd position themselves on that spot. So throughout the day, the stuff would reload.
That's sick.
Wow.
Yep.
Are you what's your chatterbait of choice?
I throw a Z-Man jackhammer. Yep. I was throwing a jackhammer, a couple different colors, black, and I was also throwing a fire craw as well.
Awesome.
Very nice.
I picked the fire craw back up this year because it was great. It was really good when it first came out, and then just like everything else, it seemed like it got burned to the ground.
Yep.
So I just laid off of it. Was like, I'll find that other oddball color that nobody's throwing.
Yeah.
And I decided this year, man, I picked it up in like third cast with it this year. Like I think my first fish of 2023 was like a 5-pounder. And I was like, oh, hey, like,
there's
and it's actually funny. It's kind of funny how I like ended up going to that because I'm not usually someone that throws fire craw a lot. I normally stick to like the blacks, the green pumpkins, and the whites. But I was in like that when I was saying I was there 3 weeks earlier. I was catching them pretty good up shallow, like because I was during the tournament I was catching them in like I don't know anywhere from 7 to 12 feet of water.
Yeah.
But when I was there pre-fishing, I had caught them really good on black and white, like two, like the black one and the white one. I was catching them really good. And then the bite kind of died off after like 25, 30 fish. And I switched to a fire craw to see if I could fire them back up. And they just went bananas on it. Like they couldn't get enough of that thing once I switched back to it. So that gave me the confidence in that for the tournament to go out and start with that in my hand. And I still did the color rotations on my individual spots I was fishing. And I think that was pretty key. I caught a pretty key upgrade switching colors actually and getting them to go on a different look than just rolling the same thing over their head all day.
I was gonna ask, like being typically like a clear water reservoir, you think they're more visually relate to like forage and stuff than
I think the smallies definitely do.
Yeah. Because like it's a stark contrast between the watercolor down south or like from mid lake down to up north. Like it's pretty dirty up north compared to below. Like I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way down the lake, that water really starts to clean up, like super clean, like 25 feet of visibility clean. And I think up north, a lot of it is reaction based on what they're eating. Like I personally couldn't get them to eat a finesse presentation, and like that is like a spinning rod is like my favorite thing to throw. It's like opposite of a lot of normal kayak fishermen, but I love finesse fishing, like drop shot, shaky heads, and that kind of technique. And it never plays there for me. I power fish up north. That's like my one time a year I get to go out and just hammer on them power fishing.
So you don't have to say what trailer, but with the fire crawl trailer, just because I like poking around on this one, like What is your color of trailer that you like to do? Because I've
Yeah.
had guys that like to run, red all the way through. I personally like to offset colors. I do red and then black trailers. I
Yeah.
like to have something to dial on.
Yeah, I just throw a Zaco. I throw the Firecraw Zaco color, or
Cool.
the orange. What's the other one? The one with it's like orange and green pumpkin on the bottom.
Yeah, I don't remember what that color is called.
I don't remember what they call it, but it's very
Yeah.
similar to like a Alabama craw.
Yeah, very similar to that, but either one of those. And then on the other colors, I just throw, so like I like the laminates a lot, the black and green pumpkin laminate I throw with the blue fleck in it, or just straight black. And then on the white ones, I like the cream white. I'm not a big fan of that one. That's the laminate, the one where it's like clear on the bottom and white on the top. I'm not the biggest fan of that one. I like the solid white one.
Yeah.
I used to do the Zacos a lot, and then I got on a kick with Kitex. So if I'm wanting a swimming presentation, I run Kitex or a vertical. Well, yeah, a vertical crawl presentation, and then when I creep it, it's like a crawl trailer. It's pretty sick. Jackhammer is one of my favorite things, or chatterbait fishing. I love to hear. There's just so many ways to do it. I love to get everybody's take on it because if you tell me one thing, Jody Queen, who's like Mr. Jackhammer, he does it completely different than everybody else. He's a big diesel minnow guy. Be nice if we could find diesel minnows down here in the South somewhere. Anyone's listening with a tackle store hookup, tell them to carry the freaking diesel minnows down here.
You ever tried
the tungsten? Brother's got them.
Well, screw you then, okay, pal? Ever tried the what?
The tungsten jackhammer, the JDM tungsten one.
I think I've got one. I haven't thrown it.
They call it. Yeah, it gives it a different sound. That's another thing I like to switch in. I just try different things. I don't know if it's actually matters or if it just helps my confidence that I'm like throwing a different look when I'm throwing something, but those kind of things, I'm always just playing with little, and I think that comes from being a finesse fisherman where I'm like trying to tweak every little thing about my lure to get it to look right. But I like to tweak that kind of stuff.
Makes sense.
Play around.
Gotcha. Well, Brandon, what about you, man? Let's hear it.
So, like I said, I had my starting spot kind of in mind, and thought I could, put together a quick limit. And I got there and probably spent like 30 minutes there, but, looked around and there was 7-8 kayaks around me all doing the same thing. And I didn't see anyone getting anything. So I got out of there. And like I said, I didn't have a lot of time to pre-fish. And so I kind of just went hunting during the tournament. And, I cruised around and was looking at my side scan. And after maybe like 20 minutes or so of cruising around, I got to this spot that I could see on Navionics that had, kind of a bottom contour feature that looked juicy. And I rolled up there and I got a fish pretty quick, like second cast, 18 inches, got something started in the first hour. So that felt good. But then I, kept moving, and my side scan lit up with some hydrilla, and I knew from the practice that the little bit of practice I had done, I was getting fish out of some of that early hydrilla that I had found, and it looked juicy, and I thought I saw fish in there. I wish I would have taken a picture of what I saw in the side scan, because I was like, that looks like bass. And I got set up behind it and was casting into the wind, and I think that ended up being key, was casting it into the wind and bringing it back down with the wind. And I did most of my damage on lipless crankbaits. So kind of like what we were talking about, or what Nick was talking about with the chatterbait and playing around with different colors and different trailers. I had several lipless rigged up, and I had a 1/2 ounce, I had a 5/8 ounce, I had a few different colors, and I was just kind of playing around with that and playing around with retrieves. And it was kind of a weird bite. I was in 7 to 8 feet of water, found that hydrilla, confirmed pretty quickly with the lipless. I pulled up some hydrilla and I was like, okay. And I was kind of getting these like pecks. It almost felt like a perch or a bluegill, like pecking. And, that happened like 3 or 4 different casts. And I was like, something's going on there. And after, maybe 10 casts or so, I hooked a bass and pulled it in. and it was hooked on the side of the lip, only had one hook. And thankfully, most of the lipless that I had planned on using, I had swapped out the stock hooks. I was using mostly Hayabusas and also the owner ST like 36s, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I did, because most of the fish I got on the lipless, it was like one hook in the corner of the mouth. So the bite was really weird. But I pretty quickly got a number of just shy of like 20 inches. They were like 19 and a quarter, 19 and a half. Got a few of those, and it like, I think I got the school fired up, because it was just like all of a sudden it was lights out for like an hour. I didn't even submit the fish, and Nick, like that's why I jumped up there so quickly, is because I was just like, it was like one after another. And you know, in the middle of that, that's when I got the big one, that one big bass. It was 21 and a half, and that thing was chunky. But I didn't, you know, spend a lot of time like, you know, basking in the glory of that. I got it back in the water pretty quickly and just kept firing. So I was getting a number of like smaller fish, but like, I'd say like every 2 or 3 fish, you know, I'd pull one up that was the right one, that was, you know, 19 and change. And so that went on for about 2 hours. I filled out my limit. Pretty quickly was, you know, up there at like 95, 96 inches. Noticed on the leaderboard, you know, where Nick was at, and we were kind of like going back and forth. And so I'd say after about 2 hours, having a blast. Like I must have caught like 12, 15 fish out of that area in those 2 hours. The bite died off. I tried a few other things in that area. I was throwing a chatterbait, throwing a big swim bait, couldn't get anything else to fire. And so I went moving again. And what I realized is I think as the sun came up and the wind started to die down a little bit and the water was warming up, I think those fish moved shallow. So I was getting them in like 7 to 8 feet. And I found them again, like pretty in relatively similar area, but they had moved up to like 4 feet of water, and started getting them on the lipless again. This time I like downsized to, I tried a 3/8 ounce. I think I maybe got a few small fish on that. And I also, at that point, got a fish on a jackhammer that went into my limit. And that was like a white jackhammer, 1/2 ounce. I was throwing it with the Berkeley, the Deal trailer, which I've become a pretty big fan of. I've caught some really good fish on that in tournaments.
Nice.
It's definitely like one of my confidence baits. And I was getting a fish like here or there in the more shallow water. But what was so frustrating was, you know, I wanted to get, you know, another 20 plus inch fish to kind of hang with Nick. And I must have caught like 4 or 5 fish that were all right at 19. And two of my smallest fish were 19. And so I got like probably 5 more fish that were all right at 19. So it was so frustrating. You know, I was like trying to get just a 1/4 of an inch out of these fish, and they wouldn't go.
If any of those would have had like a couple quarters.
Yep. And every time I saw these fish coming up, I was like, oh, surely that's a 20. And like it was 19 on the dot. So yeah, I got 4 or 5 of those that didn't help me. And then, yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need to present on some of these.
Yeah, like that fish is absolutely like giant for a 20. I mean, a 21 and a half is a killer fish, you know, no matter what way you look at it. But that thing, like if the rest of, from basically his tail section back, if it would fit the rest of his body, that would have been a freak of nature fish right there. Like he looked like he just got stunted right here.
I feel like that's how all these fish on Cayuga are. It's unbelievable. Like when you see some of them come out of the water, you're like, oh God, this has to be 22 inches. And you put it on the board and it's 19 or it's 20.
Yep. Pull up this 20 3/4 that Ryan caught. I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. That thing is a football.
It's crazy.
Jeez, that poor thing looks worse than the other one did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ryan actually
On
caught
like
one.
almost everybody's looks like this. Like,
Wait,
it's
does
not
Ryan have his board cut off at 21 inches?
Yep.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
My man knows he's not catching anything over 21. Like,
I know Ryan. He carries a bigger board with him, but just for the sake of putting them on the floor and not flopping out, he has like a quick measure board that only goes to 21.
that's awesome. Yeah, we've had
yeah.
Ryan on recently.
Yeah.
Ryan's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is a freaky looking fish, though. That thing is swollen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But like all the way down the leaderboard, like everybody's got like those
They're all
19s and
footballs.
20s that are all just like ridiculously fat.
I think there was, what was it, 16 or 17 people in the EKF tournament had over 90.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
had
I've
it pulled
got
up a
it.
second ago. I was going to go over that leaderboard.
I've got it. I'm over here looking through all the the big fish.
Yeah.
15
15 had over 90
inches, and most of those people had at least a 20, if not 2. Like,
yeah,
that's insane.
Lake's got them. It's, I mean, like looking at the Hobie coming up in the end of June, it's going to be, I mean, if anyone wants a chance to get to like, I honestly, I think it's one of the best fisheries in the country, if not the best, just because of the smallmouth and just as good as the largemouth are, the smallmouth are just as freakishly big. So I mean, it's got the best of both worlds, and it's just incredible.
There's definitely a lot of 5 pounds plus smallies in this lake too.
Yeah. Yep. And every one of these fish we're catching, like when Brandon's saying 19 inches or like whatever, like 19, even the 18 3/4, they're all 5+ pounders. Like they are just I mean, you throw back 5 pounders, like they're nothing. Like it's that they're not even they're hardly keeper fish.
So are these like spawned out and fed back up, or are these like still this is still pre-spawn for y'all?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I figured as much, but
early
our weather's been so like wacky. I didn't know if maybe y'all had already got, especially with the weather being so hot. I didn't know if y'all already like blown through y'all's spawn.
There might have been 1 or 2 that had spawned that put up on beds that week, but I don't think any like significant.
The water temps were around 50. It warmed up like by the time the tournament ended to like 56, but
so even though you've had the heat wave, the water's still fairly cold. Okay.
I mean, you gotta think it's 400 foot deep. It'll take
and it's a glacier lake too.
It's gonna take a while.
Yeah,
it'll take it a while to get it up there.
So there was a small bass boat tournament happening the same time as us. It was like 25 boats or so, and it took over 30 pounds to win.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's insane.
During pre-fishing, I actually weighed my best 5, and I had 31 pounds during the day before the tournament in pre-fishing. That was 103 inches I had.
And you started with a 7-pounder, didn't you?
In pre-fishing, yeah. I had a 7-pounder and then multiple 6-pounders and a couple 5s. And 100
get you fired up.
Gary, what are you doing in 2 weeks? You want to go there?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and I felt
like kind of place would just like desensitize you to the rest, like
the world.
Yeah.
There's a couple fisheries up in New York. Like I give New York all the credit in the world. There's a couple fisheries up in New York that make you like not want to fish anywhere else. Like if you ever get out to Ontario or St. Lawrence River, it's just it makes going elsewhere feel like almost not worth it.
Well, and there's some of the other finger lakes are also just equally insane. There's like I would say Cayuga is probably my favorite, but there's a couple of other close seconds. I caught several 6-pound smallies last year.
Yeah. Yep.
I am just a lesser fisherman. Like, I feel like I'm standing on the feet of royalty. I don't catch fish like that. I can catch big largemouth. I mean, I've caught a big smallmouth.
Yeah,
and I think it just felt bad for me, but
I think your odds go way up the closer you get to that area.
It definitely does because I've been to Kentucky Lake and I've been to Chickamauga, and I did not catch big smallmouth like that down there, despite trying very hard.
Yeah, those are some tough fisheries.
Yeah,
the Tennessee River fisheries are
they're my nemesis.
Very hard to figure out.
Yeah,
that's like all I've got. Like,
yeah,
that's where my confidence is. Well, Nick. So with the tournament coming to a close, and you'd seen Brandon up there, and y'all had changed positions a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think he had any last minute ones to jump you to get in, or did you think you had held on to it?
Well, EKF, I think they left the leaderboard on this time. They didn't close
they did.
leaderboard.
Oh,
so
nice way to deflate your bubble
Yeah.
the whole way in.
I did get a buzzer beater. I literally took the picture at 2:30, which was
oh
lines
wow,
out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and like I said, I was getting all these fish that were at 19. So this one was 19 and a quarter. So it gave me a quarter of an inch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, with going towards the end of the day, it's always I've been fortunate enough to win a couple of tournaments, and like when you're in the lead at the end of the day, you're sitting there like just waiting for the shoe to drop. You're like, someone's gonna submit something. It just has to happen. And in a tournament as close as this, I was like, honestly, I was like kind of shocked that I ended up winning, because I'm thinking this is such a great lake, and it's like literally quarter inches. I'm like, someone's gonna pass me.
And it's on fire, obviously.
Oh,
yeah. You called them. Y'all both
Yeah.
called them absolutely stunned, but like a lot of folks got them. So
yeah, right. So,
that's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, man, just a big congrats to you, and like, thanks for, giving us a whole bunch of information on it. I mean, it's definitely opened a bunch of our eyes, and I've heard of the lake before, and because we've got a lot of great content creators in our realm, Bailey and even Greg Blanchard. His New York home is up on the up by Cayuga.
He fished this one, didn't he?
Yeah, he was there.
Oh, sweet! I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Greg got 5th in the double down.
20-something, 22nd or 21st in the elite.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so we, a lot of us know about that lake through a lot of these guys and watching the elites and the MLF, and but it is great to have y'all on to talk about it and really show what kind of great fisheries there are up in New York. And most of us Southern guys don't get to head that way. Most of the time, there's not really a reason to, because we got Gunnersville and Chickamauga.
If you do ever head up this way, the only place you have to stop in Pennsylvania is a Susky. Besides that, you could kind of leave the rest of Pennsylvania. Just it's not that great.
Yeah, Susky. I'm looking forward to, if nothing. I mean, we both have a kid on the way, and I found his wife's a good bit further along than mine is, but I had a whole bunch of fishing plans towards the middle and end of this year that probably just went all out the window. But I'm hoping I can still squeeze in the Susky event at the end of the year.
That one, for bass, that will be that is the right time of year to have that event. That is going to be an absolute upper 90s both days.
I'm gonna try to hit that for sure.
Yeah. That plays to my style. I'm a moving water creek guy. Like if the water's rough, like I not even knowing like how that place fishes, like I get excited when the rains come and the water speeds up. I'm like, oh, like this is nice. So that I'm hoping I can make that event. Hoping we get a little weather before it.
Yeah,
just to
I always say the Susky fish is like a pre-spawn southern lake all year round for some reason. That's just how I feel like it fishes.
Oh my
God. That's kind of how
that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh heck yeah! Well, maybe we'll get to see you guys there. What do y'all got up next on y'all schedules?
I am actually headed back to Cayuga next weekend. There's a small Slay Nation tournament up there that I'll be fishing. And then Lake George, KBF, and the rest of the elite kayak fishing schedule, starting at Champlain. Now's my northern swing of the year. This is like when I've done the traveling down south, and now I'm focusing on the northern fisheries, and that's my favorite time of the year. Post spawn, chasing smallies, big water.
Heck stuff I know nothing about.
Yeah. And I like Nick, I spent a bunch of time traveling down south in February and March. Was on the road quite a bit, hitting up some Hobie events and the Bassmaster Kayak Championship on Chick. So now that I'm home and it's starting to warm up here and these fish are firing, I'm gonna hang tight and mostly do NYKBF events. Our next club event is not this weekend, but the following weekend. It's a few different Finger Lakes that you have some options there. And again, it's like big smallies, big largemouth, and several different lakes. So they should be at different stages. So that'll be fun. But yeah, doing more NYKBF events, and then looking forward to the Hobie on Cayuga. So that's kind of my focus now. I'm in a decent place right now in AOY standings in the Hobie BOS, and so I'm really hoping I can repeat what I just did on Cayuga and get some good valuable AOY points.
Sounds like that'd be a good chance for you to do that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep.
I definitely I love when the National Kayak Trails hit the Northern Lakes, because it does seem like it does shake the leaderboards up a little bit. You still have your guys that just kind of do good everywhere, but it does start to play to other guys. So I think it'll definitely be fun to watch. You never know. Maybe me and Garrett can trick the wives and get out there for that one. Don't think it's gonna happen.
You should do it.
Yeah, that's my anniversary weekend. My first anniversary.
Garrett's out.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
I immediately looked at the calendar when it came out. I was like, God dang it.
Honey, can we celebrate a week late?
Yeah. Want to go to New York? There's some cool stuff up there.
There's a bunch of wineries. It's a beautiful area. There's waterfalls, and
you're gonna have this itinerary planned, and there's just gonna be this giant 3-day gap in it where it's like pre-fishing and 2 days of tournament.
Yeah, we got something going on during these days, but everything.
Well, this is a part of the show where we start to close it down a little bit, and we like to give you guys a chance to shout out your sponsors and family and whoever helps make it easy for you or makes it happen. So either one of y'all want to start, just shout them out.
Okay. So I'd like to thank Enduro Power lithium batteries. They make one of the lightest 100 amp hour batteries on the market, and definitely help me power my kayak and my electronics during the tournament, and at a pretty light package. And also I'd like to thank Three Bells Outfitters. They helped EKF put this trail on, and they helped me rig my kayak for the season to get ready, and they do a great rigging job. So if anyone needs their kayak rigged, definitely go check out Three Bells Outfitters. And besides that, just like to thank my friends and family. Ryan Matalevich, I travel with him to all the tournaments, him and his dad Frank, and we always have a great time on the road. So just like to thank those guys too. Ryan had a good finish in this event as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I think he got third right in the elite.
Yeah.
And that tank that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Big old donkey.
Giant 20 3/4.
Garrett, that fish got Garrett enough. Garrett he's like, dude, you've got to see this. And this is 3 or 4 days ago. He's like, bro, look at this thing. He's like, it's 20 inches long and it looks like it's 8 pounds.
Yeah. He actually did catch an 8-pounder pre-fishing. He caught a 21 1/4 that was actually 8 pounds pre-fishing.
Good Lord.
Insane.
Yeah.
I got a week off coming up in May. I think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I have to call you guys for some advice when I get up there, because I won't know what the hell I'm doing. But Brandon,
out there at 300 foot,
no, you can best. I might go down there and just take a picture, just to say I see one of the drop offs, but I'm staying away from that.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I just want to thank my my family, very supportive of this little addiction I have, and got a little fan club there, so it's fun. And then definitely want to thank Justin Hausner, NYKBF, the tournament directors. I think they're really stepping up and taking it to the next level with our club, and also the elite kayak guys as well for coming out here. And then in terms of sponsors, pro staff, Alpha Angler Rods, it's pretty much all I use. It's all I used in the tournament. Big fan of their stuff. Obviously, Brandon Polinick has put them on the map, but they make.
Isn't that the rods that Polinick?
Yeah, BT. I mean, that's what put me onto it initially, but I've kind of just fallen in love with most of their rods, and that's pretty much all I use. And then Morgan Marine. Where I got my Hobie, and they set me up with a Newport Vessels motor, and helped me with a bunch of the wiring. So they've been great. And Saber Outdoors and Love Beams headlamps have been a supporter of mine for a couple of years now. So yeah,
awesome. Hey, your boy loves a good headlamp. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've probably
I
got.
just bought a new one today, actually.
I
And
bet you I've
mine
got.
broke it
I
at
literally have
Cayuga.
a box up there labeled headlamps. I've probably got 15 because I'm weird.
So these headlamps are pretty slick. They actually you can like kind of do this setting on it basically, where if you're looking at someone, it'll shut off,
Oh, that's really cool.
and then
What?
it pops back
Yeah.
on when you're like looking down at your gear.
And what's
Sold.
the name of
pretty
this
slick.
company again?
It's
Yep.
Love Beams.
Love Beams. Okay.
They're about to get money from me.
It
Yeah.
they had initially been
You got
called
16
low
headlamps
beams.
now.
They were called low beams
Yeah.
initially, but then there's I think some copyright issues there, so it's Love Beams.
Yep, that's sick. Getting one of those.
Yeah.
I like all the little features. I'm the one that like I'll see the gimmicky ones that come across in like Facebook ads, like the little thin ones that like shape around your head. And I'm like, gotta get it. I gotta try it. Like,
Gotta see how that works.
yeah, man. I used to use them for work every day, and it's like an addiction. I'm like, well, gotta try everybody's. See
I've
which
got
ones
one
suck.
like tucked in like every compartment because I always forget where I put it at. So I've got
Nothing is
one in like
worse.
every compartment in my truck and in my kayak.
I for shout out little gimme anybody listening might get surpassed by these new Love Beams I'm about to buy, but best ones you can buy for cheap, the Energizer ones that you can get at Lowe's. I still have every one I've ever owned and they won't die. Like they're fed. I've got them wet, doesn't matter. And then I've got I can't even think of the name, but I've bought some of the high end ones. The Black Diamonds.
Yeah.
I've had more troubles out of those than anything. Those things are so freaking finicky because they got 6 million settings. But I might check out
always
that
like
other
trying
one.
to cycle.
Yeah, I just
20
dropped a
settings.
link in the chat.
This guy is like my hero.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah,
they look cool
I'm
too.
about to go.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Cool.
Sorry for the pause, folks. Checking out cool new gear that the Gear Horse that Garrett and I are about to buy. Well,
Obviously.
guys, man, we do, man. We really appreciate it. It was great having y'all on. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on y'all, and I'm sure we'll be shouting y'all's names out on here at the end of our shows like we always do.
This is the first chance we've had this season, I think, to talk about like northern fisheries.
Yeah.
We're kind of starting our
This is the first time this year we've got to hit a event that wasn't a national trail. It's been pretty the roots of this show, we used to cover everything and cover a lot of the local stuff, and it's just been so cram packed full with all this national crap that these are the shows I miss doing. You know, the people want to hear the national stuff. I want to talk to you guys. Like, there's a lot more chance I'm going to run into you guys at one of the local events than on the national trail. But well, guys, we won't keep you any longer. Again, we appreciate it so much. And you know, good luck the rest of your season. Good luck at all your next events. Brandon, hope you get those IOI points and get on up there in that Hobie.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Well, all right, dudes. Well, thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having us on.
Peace. Awesome show. Golly, I know Trey's going to listen to this one. Trey, when you listen to this one in the morning,
you already got your
you just text me.
Booked.
Oh, yeah, because we talked about taking the boat up there last year. Well, Trey, it's time to go. So
I talk about it every year. I'm like, man, I got to go up there. But I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but it's going to happen at some point.
I really might. I've got so much side work that's like it's lined up, but a lot of it's not confirmed yet. It's like I know that it's coming. They just haven't said when yet. And with my new job, I'll get to gloat on this for a minute. I only work 3 days a week anymore. So for all you people listening, work your long all week jobs, I'm sorry. I only work Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays now. And it's been awesome. I have a lot of free time, and I still haven't been going fishing as much, so that's kind of stupid. But
you're just getting prepped to go fishing a lot.
That's right. The guy I work for is he's gonna be out of town for a week, and I've been trying to figure out what I was gonna do. I thought about going to Gunnersville and camping, but I kind of don't want to. Thought about going back to Del Hollow, but I kind of don't want to. Actually, that's a lie. I really want to go back to Del Hollow, but never been to New York. I've never been north of. I've been into Ohio, like southern Ohio. I've never been north or northeast of that. So, road trip.
There's some good stuff up north. I mean, we don't talk about it a whole lot, but I mean, a lot of the good anglers know that like New York and some of the other, sometimes like some of the Wisconsin and stuff, like the Mississippi River and all that stuff.
I see that's what I touched on earlier about like miss doing those shows. We used to cover so much of that stuff. When the All American Kayak Series first started to get going, we used to cover them all the time.
Yeah.
Because like they went to a bunch of great places. They always had good turnouts, and you never talked to anybody from it. So we used to cover it
Yeah.
all the time. And if we can find a way to start squeezing it back in, I'm definitely going to, because I enjoy these shows. I think everybody likes hearing them too.
I think we can like more this summer too, because this is where you start seeing the larger gaps between events happening.
Right.
And
And with certain things that's been going on with some of the, well, with one of the trail series with KBF, I think you're just going to be a lot less like lackluster there. I think you're going to see the participation dwindling a little bit.
well,
So
you're seeing that on some of the Hobie right now. They're
I
struggling
understand
on
that
their
part,
participation on
which I mean, shit's
um
expensive right now. So maybe folks is just saving their pennies, or
yeah.
maybe it's people not happy with locations. I don't think that's it. I
I don't
can't think of
know.
any on the Hobie that. But again, kayakers are last minute. Like now that the hype has
They
left
got
Hobie
Phil.
about you got to sign up to beat the 200,
Yeah,
I think that's all it is. I don't think you're seeing a drop in participation for any like particular reason. It's just like people are like, okay, I don't have to like. People had FOMO. They were like, if I don't sign up, I won't make it. And
yeah.
then they sign up and don't go. Like,
Well, so the registration for the Kentucky Lake event closes on the 12th. Get
how many
signed
they got?
up for that. They got, the last I checked was 77
Oh,
for that one.
that'll break 100. They'll probably be 110, 120 at that one.
I'm considering going to it.
Boo.
Yeah.
Let's just go to
Uh,
Gunnersville.
well, I mean, Kentucky Lake's only an hour from my house. Well, the south end, the part that's out of bounds. um,
I think
but
that might be something that's causing that delay in sign up, because I know a lot of folks was kind of upset. Not that they like cut off the creek waters and all that, but like they cut off like the whole southern section.
yeah, pretty much from Paris down. It seems like they've cut off, and
And that's like
a
even
lot
in the
of,
bass boat world, that's where like you hear about those guys. That's where they run to. Like
yeah,
they run south of Paris. Like
I get it. I get why some people might be frustrated with that, but at the same time, it's such a massive reservoir that, like,
well, it's gonna make you fish out of your comfort zone. Like
yeah,
go figure something else out.
there's a lot of water that's
If you don't
still,
like it, don't fish it. And I think that's what's happening.
yeah, I guess so. But I'd like to see more people in it. So
Yeah, this
we'll
will be
see what
you'll win
happens.
this one, and it'll have like the fewest amount of participants out of all the events.
Whatever. If
Hey,
if I win a
win
Hobie,
is a
I'm
win.
still yeah. A win is a win in my book. But
All right. Well, speaking of winners, I've got like almost 4 pages of tournaments to hit. So without further ado, here we go. First up on the list, KBFTN, Kayak Bass Fishing, Tennessee, the 4-hour night event on Old Hickory, 37 anglers. My man, Adam Reiser, taking the win on that one. 3 fish, 50.5 inches for first place. Second place, Paris Edwards with 49.25. And third place, Bip. I can't. Is his last name Barrage or Burrage?
yeah, Barrage.
Barrage. I thought
I
so.
literally was just replying to a text from him right now.
Well, there you go, Bip. If you happen to listen to
Yeah.
this, it was
So
like,
good. I was supposed to go fish that one with them, and that's the day the transmission in my truck went out. So
boo.
yeah, boo.
So congrats to him for third place.
And I think
But
did he have big bass in that?
I don't have that marked.
Okay, yeah, he had big bass in that, I believe.
Hell
A
yeah.
19.5.
Moving on from
Other
there, we
shot.
got the grassroots bass yakking on the White River 5-day tournament window. Each angler picks 1 day to fish. So you got 5 possible days. You have to pick which day you compete. 58 anglers. First place, Nathan Pickering, 98.25. Second place, Justin Kivett, 90 inches. Third place, Nick Matthews with 88.5. So that one was putting them out. Next up, the Kayak Anglers of Western Pennsylvania, Bass on the Bay, 2-day event on Erie. 60 anglers, 5 fish limits, combined total. First place, Robert Nuss with 179 3/4. Second place, John Klein with 175 3/4. And third place, Brooke Williams with 171.
So like 89-inch average or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much for the top two. 85-inch average for third place. Moving on from there, one of our favorite. Oh, what?
That's pretty nice. I mean, that's all small.
Oh no, that's great. Yeah, 89 3/4 one day, 90 inches the next day. Fucking great.
Yeah.
Moving on from there, one of our favorite clubs to cover with their infamous 4-fish limit. They kind of started that ball game. The Queen City Kayak Bass Fishing event on Lake Hartwell, 118 anglers. First place, Bennett Knoll with 73 1/4. Second place, Lowell Brannon with 73, and third place, Jared Stanley with 72. Moving on from there,
was it Bennett or Lowell? I can't remember that we had on our show that had.
Pretty sure it was Lowell.
Yeah, that had won the or second or on Hartwell.
On Hartwell, yeah, it was Lowell.
Yeah, so he continued to
continue, and he missed that one by 1/4 of an inch. So whacking him.
Yeah. So he had that place dialed.
Absolutely. Moving on from there, the Central Carolina Kayak Fishing event on Sharon Harris Reservoir, 41 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Drew Blair with 85 1/4. Second place,
again.
Dave Hart with 83 1/2. Third place, Garrett Chavez with 82 3/4. Next
Drew
up,
a shout out a couple weeks ago because he had won an event.
Yeah,
then
he says your cousin.
Yeah,
yeah,
or a distant cousin. So he's like my cousin's cousin. So not really
third cousin, twice removed from his left aunt.
Yeah. Anyways,
so next up, we got a couple that were down here that I probably should have fished, but I don't like this lake. So first up was I'll do it a little bit backwards the way that it's wrote. So it was the Lewis Smith Lake Super Regional. So it was North Alabama Kayak Anglers, Iron City Kayak Anglers, hosted by Coleman Kayak Anglers. And there was also the ACAT going on, the Alabama Kayak Anglers Tour. So for the Super Regional, 74 anglers, also a 4-fish limit. My man, Spencer Miller, smacked him with 74 3/4. Catching him on a spook and a mag draft. Like, absolutely a good day. And for anybody that doesn't know, Lewis Smith Lake it's a spotted bass, deep, clear reservoir. Some creeks, some stuff like that, but really cool lake. I just don't like it. It's just typically full of pleasure boaters. It's not my game. So I just completely dodged. I went down there and looked at new places to fish, like took the time to hike down some trails, look at some waters, channel my inner Drew Gregory, had a game plan. Next day was like, nah, I don't care. I'm not going. Like, I'm not going. So wasted that tank of gas.
Motivated for that one.
I was motivated for 24 hours and then I lost it very quickly. But second place in that one, another good buddy, David Mayfield, 71 1/4. Third place, former host on here, Daniel Perry, 69 3/4. But to go back to the ACAT, so that is it's like $100 entry fee versus the standard entry fee of the other ones. It's just a little bit bigger event. So 29 guys signed up for that. Spencer that won didn't, and Spencer would have won by 7 inches because his best 5 were like 90 something, like high 90s. But so he missed another like $1,500. But shout out to our man Daniel Perry. He took the win on that one with 85 3/4. Second place, Lance Coley with 84 1/4. And third, John Lessman with 83 3/4. So
on a pretty good tear this year.
He's tearing it up, man. He's definitely dialing it in. Finally found either a new groove or got into a groove. So he's killing it. So good job for Dano. Moving on from there, we got the Kayak Bass League event on Newton Lake in Illinois. 45 anglers, 5-fish limit. First place, Matthew Muscarello with 95 inches. Second place, Antoine Hayes with 91 3/4. And third place, Sean Avery with 91. Moving on from there, the West Virginia Kayak Anglers Jackson County Open, 42 anglers, 5-fish limit. First place, Buddy Vance with 89 3/4. Second place, Michael Ridenauer with 80 1/2. I'm pretty sure that he's the one that caught the like guesstimated 23-inch smallie at Del Hollow for the paddle and fin
Yeah,
event. I'm almost
he was
positive that was
definitely
Mike.
there.
Yeah. If that, yeah, I know that was him. But yeah, so he's killing it still. And then third place, Mark Edwards was 77 3/4. Next up, a lake that I've always wanted to go fish. Peach State Kayak Anglers on Lake Lanier over in Georgia, in conjunction with the Georgia Bass Nation event. The results were the exact same. So 48 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Josh Choi with 96 inches. Second place, Kai Wong with 96 inches. So went down to a tiebreaker there. Third place, Joseph Gayton with 94 inches.
What was
Moving
the
on.
tiebreaker?
I don't have it. I should have asked her to get that one in. But next up, we got the Moyak event on Table Rock. 107 anglers out there for this one. 5 fish limit. First place, Lance Burris with 88 inches. Second place, Joseph Mursky with 87 inches. Third place, Chad Davison with 87 inches as well. So next up, there was another tournament going on Table Rock Lake, the Natural State Kayak Anglers. They had 66 anglers sign up. Chad Davison had third in the previous tournament, got the win on this one with 87. Second place, Brandon Prince with 84 3/4. Third place, Richie McMichael with 84 3/4 as well.
All right, so the tiebreaker on that one you went over was
Moyak?
Yeah.
Or no, Georgia Bass Nation?
Yeah, was a 22 and the other second place had a 21 1/4.
Big fishes.
Yeah.
Big fish tiebreakers. All right, so moving on from there, I got the Michigan Kayak Trail on the White and Muskegon Lakes. 65 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Trevor Rigney with 87. Second place, Michael Inman with 87. So another tiebreaker there. Third place, RJ Hoover with 86 1/4. Moving on from that, I got the Heartland Kayak Anglers on the Omaha Roadrunner event. Covers a couple of creeks, different reservoirs. 35 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Chris Longshore with 96 3/4. Second place, Marty Hughes with 88. Marty is hilarious if we ever get to have him on here. Marty Hughes he's a good guy. Third place, Michael Thomas with 84 3/4. Moving on from there, the Oklahoma Kayak Anglers on Pine Creek. 70 anglers for that one. First place, Jason Ray with 92 1/4. Second place, Chris Kobza with 90 1/2. Third place, Tovu. I'm trying. We've had him on, and I can't ever remember how to pronounce his name. Sorry, buddy. 89 1/2. Big third for him. Next up, the Washington Kayak Bass Fishing Tour event on Sprague Lake. I don't think I've covered a Washington event.
Like the state Washington?
The state of Washington. Sprague, Washington. 60 anglers, 5 fish limit. 42 fish caught in the whole event. No one caught a limit. Maybe that's why I've never covered one of these.
Yeah.
First place, Dan Walker with 54 inches. Second place, Jeff Duggar with 52 1/4. And third place, Trey Potts with 51 1/4.
Is this a 5 fish limit?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Struggle bus. Second place, next up, the River Runners Bass Club Tournament on Wacomico. 37 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Ronnie Robinson with 80 1/2. Second place, William Crockett with 77 3/4. Third place, Michael Cheney with 56 1/2. Moving on from there, we got the Cincinnati Kayak Fishing Northern Kentucky Lakes. Bolts Lake, Bullock Pin Lake, Kincaid Lake, and Williamstown Lake. 34 anglers, 5 fish limit. Brad Lehman with 78 1/2. Chris Anderson, second place, 74 3/4. Third place, Jason Myers with 73 3/4. Next up, the USA Bass and Jackson Kayak Trail in Texas. Lake Fork, 37 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Eric Seaman with 92 inches. Second place, Charlie Houchin with 89 1/2. And third place, Larry Hill with 86 inches.
I think those are fairly small limits for Lake Fork.
Yes. I wonder if Lake Fork's still drawn down. I meant to look into that not too long ago, and I forgot.
I can't remember. I feel like it started to come back up.
Well, that is it for this week, folks. We've kept you here long enough and had a ton of tournaments to go over. We appreciate y'all sticking with us. If you loved the show, give both of us a follow. Check us out on Instagram. Follow Paddle and Fin. Keep your ears open. We got updates coming for the Paddle and Fin Open event on Del Hollow for 2024. Getting closer and closer. I think we're inside like 70 days to ICAST, working on those deals. So if you're going to be down at ICAST, make sure you come and find us. I'll be walking around with a bunch of stickers, and you can come say, hey, we're going to have a podcast booth set up. Maybe grab some of all of the kayak influencers we see down there and chat it up with them. Have a good time.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Be looking out for that.
Some of the boat guys that want to get in kayak stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I've already got it on my list. We're gonna go Greg De Palma, get him back over there, get him to bring some of his buddies with him, and see if we can talk them into jumping into kayaks. I know he dropped some big names that were talking to him right after he cashed a big check.
I don't know if you could see this, but somebody just texted me this picture of Matt Roberson and Seth Feider in a little kayak. Here's the next picture.
As they should.
Yeah.
That's great. We'll have to get those boys into a nice kayak that they can use
something that'll be a little harder to flip.
Yeah. Well, again, folks, just keep your ears out, keep listening to us. We appreciate everything. And I guess we'll see everybody next week. Think there's a big event this weekend?
I have no idea.
Me neither. We'll have something for you next week.
Yeah, we got our CTK event on Center Hill this weekend, but it's Mother's Day weekend too, so I don't know how many big trails we'll schedule on Mother's Day.
I don't think I'm going fishing this weekend. I'll hang out with my kid. I don't know. I kind of need to go put my boat in the water and test all the new stuff, so you never know.
Well, it sounds like you got plenty of time off to go figure that out.
That's true. That's very true. All right. Be jealous. See y'all later. See you next time.
We'll see it.